What's up, Eagles Nation? What's going on, NFL world? How you doing, division rivals? This is Stephen Hyder with Gate City Sports Channel, the sports channel where the cerebral NFL fan comes for about 10 minutes of daily content. Once again, guys, how's everyone doing? This is Stephen Hyder, Gate City Sports Channel. If you are new to this channel, if I can ask you to do me a huge favor, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hey, it helps keeps us motivated, helps me keep pushing out content, guys. I appreciate every one of y'all that do that. You have no clue how much it is appreciated, guys. Number two, to all my OGs, look, you want to help grow the channel? The one easy thing you can do, hit that thumbs up button, hit that like button. That's what communicates with YouTube, lets YouTube know that we are conversing back and forth with one another. And in return, YouTube will then take this content and push it out across the platform. All right, y'all. Yesterday, I got a mea culpa here, mea culpa kind of situation. Um, the Eagles really made their website look like the article they had written a couple days ago really was not well worded by them. They talked about changes to the offensive coaching staff, and then they listed Matt Burke as the run game coordinator. Later on yesterday, then they put out a separate article where they it's not really a correction, but then they um, explained it a little more. I'm like, no, he's going to be labeled the run game coordinator for the defense. I'm here to tell you guys that's not something you normally see. That does not normally happen. You do not name a run game coordinator for the defense. That's something that's a little more common in the college game. It's pretty rare to see that in the NFL game. You don't see a lot of people naming run game coordinators because that title makes no sense defensively, because your scheme will dictate your run defense. It doesn't make a lot of sense there, but that's what they meant by it. So Jeff Stoutland still is technically the Eagles run game coordinator, as I understand it. And at the end of this video, maybe I'll tie together a little hierarchy that kind of like a little chart that shows the hierarchy of the coaches and is the best I can understand them. It then kind of like lays out what it is. All right. So with that said, guys, let's get into today's topic, guys. Today we're talking about these defensive coaches. So we're going to talk about who are defensive coaches. You know, what kind of system, what kind of scheme can we kind of expect from these guys? And yeah, let's take a look at defensive coaches. All right, let's get to the content, guys. All right, guys. If I had to describe defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz's defensive philosophy or his defensive style, the scheme he likes to run, I do think that there is an element of it that is conservative, and I'm talking about the traditional sense, guys. I'm not talking about a one-season sample size because I don't think he was quite as conservative this past season as he's been in seasons past, but I think it's a lot to do with the lack of personnel he had. So, simply put, it's a single high safety system mostly. So either in a cover one or a cover three, primarily cover three, and it's fast flowing. Cover three is a defense you play to be fast flowing. You're gonna play the run first before you ever drop into your zones. That's the premise of cover three. That's why we're such a very, very good run defense. It's part of the reason why we're so good at that. And it's a zone attacking system, meaning you've got to have cornerbacks who can play with the ball in front of them. They've got to be very knowledgeable, very talented cornerbacks. Okay. They've got to be able to read what the quarterback's doing. You got to be able to read that receiver's route tree. And guys, if it's a quick hitch, if it's a quick out, if it's a quick timing and rhythm pass, they need to be able to read that and get to the ball quickly. This is where I think Jim Schwartz gets overcriticized. We all get frustrated when we hear sticks defense. And I'm going to explain to you what I know about sticks defense, guys. There was a game you played when you were a kid, when you played like early in like Pop Warner systems, guys. It used to be called Red Rover. And you'll hear, if you really pay attention to the Eagles sideline, you'll hear them call out Red Rover, Red Rover. That's that third down sticks defense. See, in the game Red Rover, you take two lines of people. One line has the runner, okay? And you spread them apart like we always did it like 20 yards, but I've heard people say 25, some people say 10, some people say 50, whatever. You get the theory. You make two lines, okay? The line of the job of the line that has the ball is to break through the one line that's defending, okay? That's how you win. You got to break through that line. If the line that's defending can stop you from breaking from that line, it wins. A la sticks defense. It's Red Rover defense, all right? It drives all of us crazy. We've all heard it before. We all know about it. He's got a very similar system to what we saw out there in Seattle, that cover three conservative system that the Seahawks ran and won Super Bowls with. His Jim Schwartz's system is pretty similar. But to Jim's credit, I mean, Jim has been on the record saying, look, I'm a system guy, but the bottom line is I always believe in playing to your player's strengths when it comes to scheme and system. I will argue, though, because of personnel decisions on the Philadelphia Eagles, I don't think we've had a lot of opportunity to see the Eagles play to the strengths of the players on their roster. I think Howie Roseman should be biting the bullet here on Jim Schwartz because he's really provided this guy nothing on the back end. I mean, I'll give Howie credit for trying to draft guys in the second and third round, trying to get those developmental pieces going and making a trade for Ronald Darby that didn't quite pan out. But that's still on him because even though he's not the guy, that has to do with scouting, he's the guy that's pulling the trigger on those players. We didn't do a good job of scouting players and talent for Jim Schwartz, especially on the back end of the defense. And to me, it's not playing to your players' strengths at times with Jim Schwartz. It's playing to cover up their weaknesses at times, it feels like to me. Like we're playing to cover up their weaknesses, not playing to illustrate our strength. I do think that if we're going to be successful, guys, we've got to fix the pass rush. We had some unfortunate injuries, guys, that may have taken away our ability to get the pass rush home. Okay, Malik Jackson is a very good pass rush defensive tackle. I didn't get a chance to see him in regular season games, guys. I mean, he only played half of one game last season, but I did see in preseason. I was a little concerned with his run defense. There were a couple times, like I'm not saying that he got swallowed up on every single play, but there were a couple times in particular that really concerned me because he did get eaten up in blocks, and he's got to be a little better than that. But look, that was preseason, so he could have been given half-ass effort. He knows he's on the football team, like he's just going through reps basically. So I'm not going to read too much into that until I see it on actual game day. I will say this, losing Lee Jackson hurt us. We had roles pointed out for other guys that we lost during the season. Joe Osman was supposed to have a pass rush role here, and he went down with a knee injury during training camp. Things weren't ideal, man. We got Brandon Graham, who I still thought was our best defensive end at the end of the day, but he's getting older and older every year. I would not be shocked to see the Eagles target a pass rusher early in this 2020 NFL draft because if your pass rush is not right, you can't win games here. You're not going to win games defensively. There's no way. Too much there's too much relied on that pass rush getting home. I would not be shocked to see the Eagles heavily targeting a few players in free agency. We all know about Jacksonville's defensive end up there. I can't pronounce that young man's name. I don't know how you say his name, guys, but he's a phenomenal pass rusher. I wouldn't be shocked to see the Eagles be players not only in the draft, but be players in free agency at the defensive end position. We're going to need depth there. We're going to need a healthy Hassan Ridgeway. We're going to need a healthy Tim Jernigan if he's the guy that because I think there's going to be an argument between Hassan Ridgeway and Tim Jernigan and where you go. I would take Hassan Ridgeway. I think Hassan Ridgeway played better actually when he was healthy before he went down. I think he shocked a lot of people when he came in and played as well as he did. I think he's going to cost you less. He's going to cost you significantly less than Tim Jernigan. But I'm not opposed to bringing Jernigan back because Jernigan definitely gives you something against the run. I'm not going to sit there and act like he doesn't. He does. We also have a young guy, Anthony Rush, back there that I thought played pretty well in his minutes. I thought he was really good on the nose, playing at the nose. So it's another guy. That's another guy that we have back there in that mix. But this defense, just like the offense, will live and die with Doug Peterson. This defense will live and die with Jim Schwartz. That part cannot be mistaken. I do think we need to infuse talent in this cornerback room. We need to have guys who can read and diagnose the play and go attack it, especially in that secondary. All right, y'all. Let's get into basically each kind of positional grouping here and the coaches that are assigned to it. Matt Burke is the assigned defensive line coach that we have here. Matt Burke has a track record and a history of coaching actually at the linebacker position, but they said that he's very capable and he's very talented and he can do that. He can coach the defensive line. This was the weird situation we had where they talked about changes to the coaching staff and then labeled him run game coordinator without putting the word defense in front of that, which makes no sense, guys. You don't generally name a run game coordinator on the defensive side of the football because it doesn't come along with any kind of schematic change or any kind of playbook scripting or anything. It makes no sense. That makes no sense to me. I mean, I would love to hear them justify and explain that. Like, why was that title significant to name? I mean, I will say this: Matt Burke is a highly respected guy. Every one of these guys I'm going to talk about, minus I don't think Tim Hawk has been, but Matt Burke, Ken Flagel, and Marquand Manuel have all been defensive coordinators before. A lot of experience in this room. So he's a well-respected guy. So maybe they're trying to come up with a way of making him feel appreciated and want it within the staff. That would be my guess here. But Matt Burke, he's stepping in and taking over for a position group that a lot of us felt last year was unnecessary to fire and replace your defensive line coach. And now we're, the guy that replaced, we're now on our third guy now. So it was definitely odd that we fired a guy coming off a Super Bowl when I thought the pass rush was essential to us winning that. But I'm not going to get into the politics of football, guys. You guys know what that is. Ken Flagel, he's a linebacker coach. Been here for a long time, guys. Ken Flagel is a very good coach. I don't think you'll find a man who does more with so little. I can't remember the last time that we've had a not talented. We've had talented guys come through, but like a truly like a star in the linebacker room. I mean, Hicks and other players were definitely talented guys, definitely guys we spent draft picks on, and I thought that they were pretty good. Kendricks, Michael Kendricks, I thought was a very good football player, but that guy's been asked to do a lot with very little. I mean, look at the guys we were trotting out there last year and the job he did. I mean, I got to give the guy props, man. The guy can coach. Tim Hawk is the safeties coach. When we get to the defensive side of the football, that's the part that really intrigues me. There's a lot of weird things going on here, guys. A lot of weird things going on here. Marquand Manuel is our defensive backs coach. Marquand Manuel was definitely one of these guys that we were all in anticipation of finding out who we were going to hire there. This is a guy who has a lot of experience playing single high, doing single high safety. He played a lot of cover three, coached a lot of cover three. He knows what he's doing with that particular system. He seems to be a pretty good match in a pair. The guy's been said to be a very fiery, motivational guy, and they say that he's pretty good at developing talent, and that's going to be important in this organization. We're going to have to develop the players we get. Dino Vasso, who used to be the assistant cornerback coach or defensive backs coach, has been given the title of assistant coordinator / defense. I know titles don't mean crap, guys, but if you're calling someone an assistant coordinator, to me, that basically means he's the number 2 to Jim Schwartz. Just like if you're going to call, Deuce Staley your assistant head coach, that makes him number 2 in command underneath Doug Peterson. Those titles should have meaning. It's ridiculous that they don't. But the main thing I'm looking at here, guys, is there's 3 defensive back coaches here. You got Dino Vasso, who's the assistant coordinator. You got Tim Hawk, who's the safeties coach. Also, was a player here in Philadelphia. And Marquand Manuel coming in as a defensive backs coach. If you were going to name a coordinator, like a run or a pass game coordinator, why worry about naming a run coordinator? Like, was there really any controversy between Ken Flagel and Matt Burke in terms of who would be the run game coordinator for the defense? Is that really a necessary thing to name? I think it is kind of necessary for us to know is that Marquand Manuel, Tim Hawk, or Dino Vasso that'll be calling the pass game coordination for the defense. Wouldn't that make more sense to name? I don't know, guys. What do I know? What do I know? Just, I don't get the way that sometimes we script things. All right, guys, rolling on. Assistant coaches. I only see 2 assistant coaches listed. And most notably, guys, there's no assistant coaches at all listed for the secondary so far. There's no assistant underneath Tim Hawk. There's no assistant underneath Marquand Manuel listed on the PhiladelphiaEagles.com website, nor is there one for Dino Vasso. Well, Dino Vasso, I don't know. I guess Dino Vasso is going to work in between, Marquand Manuel and Tim Hawk. I guess because there's 3 of them already, they didn't feel it necessary to name another one. It's an interesting situation because I know that the Eagles organization is very high on Dino Vasso. They like that kid a lot. However, we do have an assistant defensive line coach, and that is Nathan Ali. He will basically work hand in hand with Matt Burke, which will probably be important because I don't think Matt Burke has ever played the position before. So getting a guy who might understand the intricate details of hand placement and all that kind of stuff, like, how to use your hips correctly, how to get into a proper pass rush and how to defend the run, it's going to be a big deal when your actual position coach has never played the position. And then our assistant linebacker coach is Ryan Paganetti. He's got that good Italian sounding name. Assistant linebacker coach. He also isn't just an assistant coach, guys. He is given the title of game management. This is the guy who he's a statistician by trade. So he actually will tell Doug Peterson like the actual analytics and the statistics on going forward on fourth down, on what percentage plays certain plays work. Like he has a direct line to Doug Peterson's ear. Very weird for an assistant linebacker coach to have, but it's innovative. You got to give him credit, man. Some stuff is weird, but it's also innovative at the same time. That's part of the analytics things that we do here in Philadelphia. This is a very analytically based organization. So Ryan Paganetti, still here. His brother, I think his brother's TJ. I have to look that up. I'm pretty sure TJ and Ryan are brothers. So that is the defensive coaches for the 2020 Philadelphia Eagles as it stands right now. All right, guys, I'll talk to how I understand the hierarchy of coaches now. Okay. Doug Peterson on the offensive side of the ball runs the offensive side of the ball. He's the overall head coach of this football team. Okay. Doug Peterson. All right, but I'm just going to go offensively down here. After that, you would have Press Taylor as your passing game coordinator. And then you would also have Jeff Stoutland as your running game coordinator. So Peterson down to Stoutland over to Press Taylor. Okay. Run and pass game coordinators, those two in conjunction basically equal an offensive coordinator, if you will. There's a third person in that bar, though, okay, between Press Taylor and Jeff Stoutland, and that guy happens to be Andrew Brenner because he's the pass game analyst. Okay, so he's analyzing and using analytics to determine the success rate of certain things and to assist with the passing game. All right. He's not necessarily a coach, although he does have experience coaching both quarterbacks and wide receivers. Underneath them, you have your general position coaches. So we all know that Press Taylor is the quarterback coach. Jeff Stoutland is the offensive line coach. All right. Aaron Moorhead is going to serve as your wide receivers coach. Justin Peele is your tight ends coach. All right. Underneath that group of guys, we have the assistants. So we have TJ Paganetti. All right. Ryan's probably brother. I'm assuming they're brothers, guys. I mean, they look pretty young. Brothers, cousins, they're related, it looks like to me. All right, TJ Paganetti is your assistant running back coach and assistant run game coordinator. All right. And as I was saying this, I realized I left somebody off, guys. I would put Deuce Staley above Press Taylor and above Jeff Stoutland because Deuce Staley, if you give someone an assistant head coach title, that means something. I'm sorry, but they are elevated in status above you. Why else give them that title? So I'm sorry. It would go Doug to Deuce to Press Taylor to Jeff Stoutland and to Andrew Brenner, and then down to the individual position coaches who, like Aaron Moorhead, Justin Peele. Now, continue with the assistant coaches. TJ Paganetti is the assistant running back coach underneath underneath Deuce Staley, and then he also serves as the assistant run game coordinator. So TJ Paganetti has pretty big responsibility being that assistant running back coach there. You have Matthew Harper as your assistant wide receiver coach, and you have Mike Bartram as your assistant tight end coach. And then last but not least, you have Ryan Istvan as your assistant offensive line coach. So that would be the way I would envision the hierarchy for the offensive coaches. Now let's talk defense, guys. I think defense is not quite as hard to figure out. Just depends on how you want to play certain people. All right. Obviously, Jim Schwartz is your defensive coordinator. He's the first person on that hierarchy. Okay, Jim Schwartz. I would personally place Dino Vasso next. He's that next guy because you gave him the assistant coordinator of the defense title. That means he's in charge of all the administrative details of arranging meetings, probably has to help with arranging, scripting practices and film studies and things like that. Like that gives him a role that's different from everyone else. Like I would probably put Dino Vasso, it seems like to me, is that they want to groom that kid. Now, under him, you'd have your individual position coaches. You got Matt Burke as your defensive line coach. You got Ken Flagel as your linebacker coach. You got Tim Hawk as your safeties coach. And you got Marquand Manuel as your defensive backs coach. Listen, if people wanted to put Dino Vasso underneath those position coaches, I'm fine with that. I'm just talking about a guy who's basically telling you when you got to go into film study, setting up all the, like that guy has power over you. However, I get the dynamic of Dino Vasso has never been a coordinator, but you got Matt Burke, Ken Flagel, Tim Hawk. I'm sorry, not Tim Hawk. Matt Burke, Kim Flagel, and Marquand Manuel, who have all been defensive coordinators before. So I do get that some people might see that differently, but the Eagles got to be better with these titles because titles have meaning. I'm sorry, you can't just throw a title out there and think that doesn't have meaning. And then you got your assistant coaches. So you got Nathan Ollie, who's your assistant defensive line coach, and you have Ryan Paganetti, who is your assistant linebacker coach. Interestingly enough, there has not been so far that I can see on anything an assistant safeties coach. We haven't had that in a long time now, nor is there an assistant cornerback coach. That's probably because you have Dino Vasso, Marquand Manuel, and Tim Hawk all on staff. So it seems a little unnecessary to then add further to it. You could even, I could see why some people might say, like, yeah, I would do Jim Schwartz, then your position coaches, then Nathan Ollie, Ryan Paganetti, I'm sorry, and then Dino Vasso. You could do that in theory. That's fine. I'm not opposed to that, but this is the structure of the coaching staff, guys. All right, y'all, let's get into the question of the day. All right, guys, question of the day. What do you think about this coaching staff? I mean, let's start off with a question based about the actual principle of the coverages. Do you think we're going to get this together with Jim Schwartz as the defensive coordinator? We know what his system is by now, guys. It's going to be mostly single high safety. He'll play a little cover two every now and then. He'll play little quarters. He'll play stuff like that. But mostly it'll be single high safety. Next, what do you think about all these position coaches with a ton of experience being defensive coordinators before? Matt Burke, Kim Flagel, Marquand Manuel. They've all been defensive coordinators in the past. And then lastly, what do you guys think about our pass defense? Will we see a drastic increase or a drastic development and a drastic improvement in our pass defense? All right, y'all, I'm out of here. You know what time it is. It's time we end the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And oh, yeah, how do we end them? We go E-A-G-L-E-S. All right, y'all, let's go Eagles.